have to come down this way.
Hello.
You're the man that is me.
I'm Tommy. John, pleased to meet you. How are you? Are you well?
Cable to store.
Well, I don't have Irish, I'm mighty.
But we'll manage anyway.
Yeah.
We'll manage anyway. Yeah.
I bought one of your books. I found it impenetrable.
Do you know, there was one day when I gave an old... I gave a talk on radio. The next day my sister was walking down one side of the street in my van, and Gabriel Fitz was walking down the other side, and he called out, "How are you, Brenda?" And she said, "Fine, how are you?" And he said, "Grand." And she said, "Did you hear John on the television last night, on the radio last night?" And she said, "I did." And he asked her, "What do you think?" And she said, "At the very beginning of the programme, Andy O'Mahony said that his name was John Moriarty, and that was the last thing I understood."
Wow.
We shape the earth to suit us. We plough it and we knock it and we shape it and we reshape it. Dolphins were land animals once, and they went down into the sea. They said to the ocean, as it were, "Shape me to suit you." And now the Lord save us. I was in a house in Connemara there sometime recently, and I saw a dolphin bone. The curve of it was as beautiful as any couple of bars of Mozart's music. It was so beautiful. Like, I've no bone in my body that is shaped to the earth like that. Like, so they said, "Shape us to suit you." We went the opposite way. We shaped the earth to suit us. That's going to fail. I'm just saying that shaping and reshaping, if we turn the whole earth into a Holland, we're gone. Because, like, unless there's wildness around you, something terrible happens to the wildness inside of you. And if the wildness inside of you dies, like, I think you're finished. There's a good wildness. I'm not talking about wickedness now. I'm talking about, in Connemara, like they say, squeal amache and be a siri, like, you know. Wilderness outside and wilderness inside. Wildness outside and a bit of wildness inside, like. But not wild in the sense that there's a wildness in which you don't need to break laws. Like, you don't need to you don't need to be an anarchist, you know. But it's just that you're not dominated and overwhelmed by who you sociologically are. I mean, ask of your society, does it nourish me or does it vampire me? And if I'm in the womb, and I find that instead of being nourished in the womb, I'm being vampired. You know, instead of getting nourishment through my mother, like, that she's actually taking from me, she's digesting me. Well, then I want to get out of it, don't I? And the same with society. Does my society nourish me, or does it vampire me? And I sometimes get on a train and I think, I see people who've been vampired by modern life. There's sadness walking the land sometimes, like, when you walk into it. You know, it isn't your sadness at all, it's the sadness that's in the land. And, you know, you walking out there through the fields, like, and suddenly you're sad, and Jesus, like, it's as if the sadness was in the field and you've just walked into it, like, you know. I think I know why he's doing it, but I can't exactly say, you know. I just... Looking at him, I know that there's a bit of divine dissatisfaction in him, and you have to deal with that. I remember thinking when I was respectable, I was getting respectable wages and things, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror one morning and I said, if I don't walk backwards across China, like, do something as mad as that, then I'll have failed. You know, you have to do something. Jesus, you have to break out of routine. You have to not allow yourself to be routinized, and you have to walk backward across China. I don't just think about those mountains and those hills, you know, I think with them. I mean, you have a sense that you're sitting among them, and you're thinking with them, and you're dreaming with them, and they're dreaming with you. And I don't think it's a fantasy, you know. I mean, you're actually dreaming their dream with them. You know, you're in some kind of dream time with them. And so in that sense, place is hugely important to me. And
sustenance.
Yeah, and it is, yeah. You're supported in the way that I would never have been able to do that now in Canada when I was in Canada. The land there, like, was so savage in comparison with here that I wasn't able, like, you know, to live from your bush soul there in the way that you can here. I mean, Ireland is infinitely hospitable to someone who wants to think with it. Although, like, if I travel by train up now to Dublin sometimes, there are places up there in Laois when you be going out, you know, and you think that the soul is ploughed out of the land. I love it when I look out into a land, and it's almost like there are days there, like when it's the first morning of the world, and if you look out, when I lived in Kildare for a while, and every place I looked, I saw human intention and purpose, you know, in the land. And here, when you look out, you don't see human intention and purpose, so you're still in the dreaming. You're still in the dreaming. People say to me, like, you know, where do you come from? And I say, do you remember the three names of the goddesses, Fola, Bonva and Eire? Like, I've always a sense that up here I live in Fola. I don't really live in Eire at all. And when I go down to Killarney, I feel like showing a passport halfway down, do you know? That I'm crossing out of this place now, this other dimension of Ireland called Fola, into the dimension of Ireland called Ireland. The where I am is intimately connected with the who I am. Where I am and who I am are hugely bound up with each other.
What kind of a man would you be if you're in a flat in Dublin?
Well, someone conducted an experiment once about people living in the country and asked them, give us an impression of how big your head is, you know. And people in the country said, that's the size of my head, and much smaller than it actually was. And people in the city said it was that size, like, because like they had to live so much in their head that the head.
I feel as if my head is about this big.
The head was huge in comparison with the rest of the body. Where to me is who, where I am and who I am. I mean, if a cat came into this room, like, he would have to find out all things like, and he'd scratch and eventually lie there, because that's a furry place, like. And he would have to get to know his territory, you know, if he came in for the first time. So where and territory, they say that the territorial instinct is more profound and is more profoundly rooted in us than the sexual instinct, like.
How about sex and women and all that?
I mean, I had my time in the high street when it was, you know, many a man of 20, like, you know, and I was fortunate. I met some lovely women, and you find out, like, that in bed with a woman that you're adding to cold fish, and it's a great thing to go to the end of passion with someone. That's a wonderful thing, you know, and to find a woman, like, who goes to the end of passion with you, and that it's still safe to go to that extremity. So that kind of sensuousness, I think, it was essential to me and to my growing and to my knowing and to my sense of myself right now, you know. And like the female shape is primal. When I left Canada, like, I thought, you know, Jesus, I mean, I'm quitting now, like, I mean, that was my time, part of my time in the high street, like, and I thought that's going to be tough, like, that the female shape won't just be around even, you know. And I found it wasn't as bad as I imagined at all, because I was living an otherwise incredibly sensuous life. I was climbing mountains, I was sitting by waterfalls, like, I was walking by the shore, I was, you know, out in wind and rain, and for 7, 8, 10 hours every day, like. And in Canada especially, like, you couldn't walk out much because it would kill you. It was so cold, 50 degrees below zero, like. You freeze your lungs out there, you know. So the only form of sensuousness that was available to people was togetherness in bed, like, you know. That was one of the chief forms of sensuousness. Now, when you live an otherwise sensuous life, then it becomes less important. And that was a wonderful discovery for me in Connemara. I look back on that whole side of my life with great joy and great delight. The time when, you know, you can sing your song of songs with some woman, like, you know, Jesus, like. I remember one day walking up Grafton Street, like, and going up from Connemara and thinking of buying a present for a woman in my life who's at home in Connemara, you know, and buying her a present, you know, going into Brown Thomas and buying her a present, like, and just thinking of that woman at home and kind of marriage, you know, and you were in the place where normally I'd be looking at all the women, like, you know, and turning around to look at them and, you know, run into lampposts looking at them, you know. And the idea, I don't need to look at the women on Grafton Street today, you know, because at home beside the Old Moor River, like, is the woman that you remember or know now.
I'm a big Leonard Cohen fan.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said was that marriage is the hottest furnace for the spirit today. Would you agree with that? That's...
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I have a feeling like that to be is to be towards, like to be, I'm towards you, and I'm towards the mountain, and I'm towards you. To be is to be towards, like. And it seems to me that my primary being towards is being toward divine ground, the ground that grounds me. My second being toward is being towards other people and animals and plants and whatever, you know. Now, I think what we do in the modern marriage is we ask of the modern marriage, since religion has kind of faded from our lives, we're asking of our relationships, and particularly of our marriage, that to provide the full meaning to my life. Now, if I found out tomorrow morning that I was the meaning of someone's life, Jesus, I'd run from it. I would have to say, look, I would stand my ground, and I'd say, I can't be the meaning of your life. So I think what we're now doing is that in the absence of the primary being toward, which is being toward divine ground, we're towards each other. And we're asking of this relationship of me in relation to another human being. We're asking of it to give total meaning to my life. Now, it can't do that. I'm asking too much of my marriage. I'm asking too much of my relationship for that. Whereas if I was well related to divine ground, then I wouldn't be asking of my second being toward, you know, that kind of burden I wouldn't be placing that kind of burden on it. So I think a lot of modern marriages might break down because we're asking too much of them. Mm-hmm. You know, we're asking of our relationships that they provide total meaning to my life.